Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to give it 1 minute, let some people trickle in, and we'll get started. All right, I think we can get started here. Welcome everyone to our first Here and Now webinar. We're excited to launch this new webinar series as a way to share with you the latest product innovations the team's been working on. So this month, we're focusing on how the Here Enterprise browser is your AI-powered enterprise workspace, and we'll showcase our latest AI features, including SuperComplete and just announced yesterday. Hopefully you've all seen it, Here Studio, which allows anyone to build individual work apps in natural language. So a lot of exciting stuff that we have to share with you today. I'd like to welcome Mazi, John, and Gavin. Um, Gavin will take us through a live demo, so be sure to stay on the line towards the end where we will show you Here Studio in action. A few things before we get started. The Q&A chat is open, so feel free to put your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the session. If we don't get to them, we'll make sure to follow up with you at the end. So do feel free to drop those questions in there. The webinar is going to be recorded and we will share that out on demand via email. So if you do have to hop, no worries there. You'll get that on demand recording. And I think we are about to get started. So I will pass it over to our CEO, Mr. Mazi.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to walk you through how we think about AI inside the enterprise, where it's headed, and what we've actually built. Before we get into that, I want to start with something simple, because I think it's a thing many smart people keep getting backwards. For the last few years, the assumption has been that people need to learn AI. Learn to prompt, learn to phrase things the right way, learn to read through paragraphs of generated text, ask a question and get back a wall of text and hope the answer you needed is buried in there somewhere. Now, I don't think that's how this plays out. Reading a wall of text isn't how humans make sense of information. It never has been. We see things, we scan a layout, we recognize a pattern, we act. That's how people have always worked, and AI doesn't get to just change that because it's powerful. In fact, John's going to open his section by putting up that exact wall of text on the screen because it's worth looking at directly and asking why we ever accepted this as the default. But here's the harder truth. Most people will never be prompt experts, not because they're not capable, but because it's not their job. An enterprise can't build its AI strategy on the assumption that thousands of employees are going to become skilled prompt engineers overnight. That's not a plan, that's a hope. And hope isn't a rollout strategy. So if adoption is going to work at scale, the direction has to reverse. AI has to move to where people already are instead of asking people to move to it. Now, here's what that actually looks like in practice. Instead of a salesperson opening a chat box and typing something like, which 10 clients should I call today, weighted by renewal risk and last contact date, and hoping they phrase it well enough to get a useful answer, that same intelligence is already sitting inside an app on their dashboard. They open their workspace and the list is just there. 10 clients ranked with visual indicators showing who's at risk and a link straight into everything they need for the call. Nobody had to write that prompt in the moment. Their organization built it once, embedded it in the app, and now it shows up every day for every person on that team. That's the difference between AI you have to go dig for and AI that comes to you. And it takes real design discipline to build it that way, not just a model behind an API. John's going to walk you through the principles we've built specifically to enforce that discipline. And why they're not just values on a wall, they're rules his team designs against every day. And that's the premise everything at here is built on. So, where exactly is where people already are? For any knowledge worker in banking, in healthcare, in government, the answer is close to universal. It's the browser. Almost every workflow, almost every piece of enterprise work passes through it at some point, even in industries like banking, where plenty of work still happens in native apps. It's the one surface nobody has to be introduced to, trained on, or convinced to adopt. That's why we built here the way that we did. We're not trying to replace Chrome or Edge, and we're not trying to compete with them for attention. Chrome and Edge are excellent at what they're built for, which is browsing the open internet. Here runs alongside them, purpose-built for work, the applications, the workflows, the data that make up your actual job. Think of it less as another browser fighting for space and more as the work counterpart sitting next to the browsers you already use every day. Safety built in from the start, AI embedded directly in the workflow, not bolted on beside it. People on one side, any approved model on the other. And here is the layer that makes that interaction safe, governed, and useful. You'll see a few concrete examples of that today. One is how AI shows up automatically inside the work you're already doing, filling in what it already knows instead of asking you to go find it. Another is how your organization's own approved model sits directly inside the workspace itself with full context of what's on the screen, full governance around what it's allowed to see. John and Gavin will both get into the specifics, but I want you to have this picture in mind first. People, apps, and AI meeting inside one governed layer, not separate worlds you have to stitch together yourself. That's the bet we made several years ago when we started building for the complexity of enterprise work, and it's exactly the foundation this moment needs. Now, before I get into the next part, I want to highlight something that Jacqueline also mentioned at the top. Yesterday, we announced the launch of Here Studio. That's our AI app builder designed for the enterprise. What John and Gavin are about to walk you through is fresh off the press, literally 24 hours old. And it's the clearest expression of how we think about a question everyone here is asking right now. What does AI actually mean for the systems you already run? Now, there's a narrative going around that I want to address directly because I think part of it is right and part of it deserves a second look before anyone bets the business on it. The part I think is right. Agents are going to automate a huge amount of real work, repetitive tasks, multi-step processes, the busy work that eats hours of every role. That's genuinely going away, and it should. But that's not where we're focused at here. Where we spend our time is on the work that still needs a human in the loop. The decisions, the judgment calls, the tasks nobody wants to fully hand off to a machine. Our mission is to make the humans doing that work faster, sharper, and better supported, and not to replace them. So this is where I would gently push back on the broader narrative. There's a leap some people are making right now from agents will automate tasks to AI will make every existing app obsolete. So rip out your CRM, rip out your ticketing system, and let AI rebuild it all from scratch. Now, I know some of you here are maybe looking hard at exactly that path, and I respect the ambition. But think about what that actually means. Those systems aren't just interfaces, they're the back end. That's where the data lives, that's where compliance is enforced, that's what's integrated with everything else in the business. Try to replace all of that, and the person driving Claude Code or whatever AI tool you've picked suddenly has to become the product manager for a system they're rebuilding from scratch. They have to worry about data governance, security, integrations, everything a product team worries about that has nothing to do with writing code. That's a massive undertaking, and it's not one most organizations should be signing up for. So here's the path we think is actually right. And it's exactly what Here Studio is built to do. Leave the back end where it belongs. Let Salesforce keep being Salesforce. Let ServiceNow keep being ServiceNow. Let Zoom keep being Zoom. The people who built those systems are actually good at running them. And that's exactly what you're paying them for. What you don't have to accept anymore, though, is being stuck with their interfaces. So now think about a salesperson before a customer call. Salesforce has everything they need: account history, open opportunities, prior notes, but it's not built for that moment. So half the time they don't look at it before the call, and half the time they never go back and log the call report afterward either. That's not really a Salesforce problem, that's an interface problem. So with Here Studio, that same salesperson can have a dashboard that surfaces exactly what they need right before the call starts, and a call report they can file in seconds from that same dashboard without ever touching Salesforce's native screens. The data still lives in Salesforce, the compliance still runs through Salesforce. You've just given the person a front end that was actually designed for how they work. So that's the opportunity, not replacing the systems of record, giving people interfaces on top of them that are actually built for their role. So they use the systems they already have far more than they do today. Now, I also want to be precise about what this means for engineering, because I know a lot of you supporting us have come, from that engineering world. So this isn't about replacing engineers. It's about the backlog. Every engineering team we work with has a queue, the dashboard tweak, the one-off workflow view, the internal tool nobody has time for, that realistically never gets built because there's always something of higher priority ahead of it. Like, that gap is real. And John's going to size it for you directly. Closing it means your engineers spend less time on that long tail and more time on the work that only they can do. So that's the shape of the opportunity. Agents handling what should be automated, engineers freed up for the work only they can do, and everyone else getting interfaces finally built for how they actually work on top of systems that were never going anywhere in the first place. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, John.
Thank you, Mazzy. And so with the landscape that Mazzy just laid out, we can see system of record aren't disappearing. The real opportunity is making them dramatically better to use with AI. Let's go one level deeper. As Mazzy said, most AI products today default to the same shape: a chat box, a wall of text. You ask, you read, you figure out what to do next. It's slow, and it's not actually how people want to work. Our answer is different. AI that shows up right where people are working, whether that's inside the tools they already use or as a new app built on the spot. A person stays the one deciding what happens next. It's a human in the loop approach, but it's underpinned by a principled design system. So much so that we've written it down for the team. AI really has created an opportunity for user experience. And to support those outcomes, we've introduced two new design principles to ensure that we get this right. These are AI in its place and you are always in control. They're not slogans so much as they're rules for the team to design against. AI in its place means AI features live where the users would naturally already need them, not in some separate mode or surface you have to learn. Additionally, where practices are being established and adopted, we don't want to buck trends, but we want to try and improve them. This way, AI UX becomes increasingly familiar every day. You are always in control means AI action is traceable and interruptible. Nothing happens in the dark. Your LLM, your data, your environment made real through design, not just promised in the slide. This is a real differentiator for users and a must-have for enterprise. And you're about to see both of those principles in a single new feature. We've all used Chrome's autofill. You're in a form and it offers to fill in your home or work address because it already knows that fixed data you've already filled in somewhere. SuperComplete is that exact pattern, but instead of a fixed address book, it's pulling context from your entire workspace. As an example, you're in, say, a support ticket, and instead of tabbing over to your CRM, copying the customer's details, tabbing back, pasting them in, there's a button. Use SuperComplete to fill in this form. One click, and it pulls the customer context from whatever already lives across all of your apps and gives you control as to how to fill it in. That's AI in its place. SuperComplete literally appears where autocomplete already lived. There's nothing new to learn. and you're still the one who clicks it, still the one who checks it before you submit. You're always in control. The productivity opportunity isn't hypothetical either. We recently ran a UX study with a contact center client and found that copy paste alone made up almost a quarter of the average workflow. And filling in those complex forms across multiple apps, another 15% across a call that averages 10 minutes. So from signals and SuperCompletes working together, you're looking at a meaningful chunk of that call handled without a single manual copy or app switch. That's actual minutes back multiplied across every agent, every call, every day. When you do want to access something more akin to a traditional LLM UI or our familiar feeling AI Center puts AI you've already approved directly in the browser. Wherever your team is working, this is the big difference. It's your UI. So no alt-tabbing to Copilot or Claude or GPT. Whatever you've standardized upon and already approved is running embedded one click away directly in the browser. It's not a separate tab you have to remember to open. And just like many sidebars, it's context aware, but obviously we had to go a little beyond the standard. We provide access to the context of everything on the user's layout across all of their apps. That way, the answers it gives you are actually grounded in what you're working on, not a limited single view. And so this is probably a good time to touch on DLP. There's no uncontrolled context abstraction. No AI interaction is happening outside of a policy use step. Governance control exists beyond the layer that AI runs through. And so all content gets to choose if it participates in AI or not, preventing the LLM even receiving the data you never wanted to see, rather than having to filter after the fact. All right, so next up is the one I'm most excited about and sits at the heart of Mazzy's introduction, but I'm going to sort of start with a little bit more framing. As Mazzy said, delivery bottlenecks are a massive challenge that AI promises to fix. Today, if someone does want a new dashboard or a new workflow, that's a request. It goes in a backlog, it waits for engineering time, maybe never to be seen, or wait months for something that might just take a few days of delivery effort. But everyone's a builder now. Vibe coding tools from a dozen different providers allow all users to create UIs tailored directly to our needs, seemingly answering key questions. Headless services from the major providers make that easy. But in enterprise, that's actually the problem. More building means more apps, means more unapproved shadow AI, means more ungoverned data, and eventually blocking it, saying no, or dramatically restricting access to capabilities. The question isn't whether people can or want to build, it's whether they can build safely, if they can get access to the data they need for their apps, and whether or not they have to become prompt engineers to do so. Our solution for that? Here's Studio. Imagine a sales manager, as Matthew pointed out, wants that started a view, and they want to pull context from all of those systems. Instead of writing that ticket, spending time fashioning a perfect set of prompts and working on the exact outcome they need, they just described the outcomes they want in plain language, and Studio builds the individual apps and shapes the data. From there, the sales manager or the admin can compose them into a dashboard, what we call super tabs. But what they actually see isn't a wall of text. It's a workspace laid out in the way they want, with interoperability, theming, and controls built in. And the best part for users, they don't need to be those prompt engineers. They don't need to ask for any of that. They don't ask for FDC3. They don't ask for theming or how to connect to notifications. They don't need to know about responsive layouts and how to work properly in a dashboard. They don't have to understand exactly what to describe to get easy to use, consistent user experience across the apps. The studio already knows how to build apps that work the way they should inside of here, from best practice UX to accessibility to safe libraries to build with, here notifications and interoperability. Users just describe the outcomes they want, and here Studio will take care of the rest. And here's the part that makes that speed safe. It's compliant by construction. Studio only uses your AI that the org has already approved. It only touches your connectors, your data and APIs, and it deploys straight into the environment you already govern. Permissions come from your existing identity providers. Nothing leaves the environment. And it's all controlled by your admins directly through your admin UI. Now, one of the earliest realizations of our clients and prospects was that here Studio also presents an opportunity for BAs, product managers, UX teams, or anyone to be able to create and test their ideas using real data, and that can be immediately dropped in alongside real apps. And so this presents an opportunity for a level of prototyping and testing that goes beyond, a requirements document or a flat prototype. These creations live alongside your other apps using that real data and real context. And that's a super powerful opportunity for these teams. Now, we're not stopping there, of course, with AI. Two things are coming next. And this has the same philosophy, but brings it to autonomous AI. First, Intensify FDC3. Instead of your agents learning your UIs in real time via computer control and slowly clicking buttons and hopefully arriving at what you meant, apps define exactly what intents they support. And AI can act only within those defined intents. This allows your AI to drive updates across full applications or layouts in a way that's predictable and controllable, and gives you the option of additional layers of control with intent handlers so users have direct optionality on critical tasks. Second, headless agent browsing, delegating those repetitive multi-step browser tasks to an AI agent running in the background, while it still requires explicit approval before anything critical happens. And you get live visibility into what it's doing the whole time. This is worth watching if you're evaluating alternative tools for managing user-driven agents, because it's coming, and it's coming with the same governance backbone as everything else you've seen today. And finally, just before we go to a live demo, you're not betting your AI strategy on a single vendor with here. Every vendor model only works well within inside its own walled garden. Here is model agnostic and it's app agnostic. Swap Claude for the next GPT, add an internal model, it all works seamlessly, and you don't need a new browser or toolset to support it. Given how fast this space is moving, that's not really a nice to have. That's the ability to adapt is absolutely core to any AI strategy. So that's the shape of it. AI that's present everywhere you work, leaving you in charge with enterprise controls at the heart and only capable of acting on its own within the lines you have drawn yourself. I could talk about this all day and maybe feel like I have a little, but it's much better seen than described. So I'll hand over to our Chief Product Officer, Gavin Laughlin, to cover some key final updates and finish with a live demo of what we've been talking about.
Thanks, John. And just before we get to that live demo, there's one capability that I did also want to just highlight to folks today. We announced earlier in the year that we were working on extension support in our products, and we've made great progress on that. So extensions are now able to be run in our enterprise browser, powered by here Core under the hood. We've spent a lot of time mapping the Chrome extension API to the concepts that exist within our products, which are different from what you would get in a regular Chrome browser that lets you look at one or maybe two pieces of content at the same time. We need to support super tabs and multiple apps, all being enumerated by extensions. We need controls in place to only allow trusted, known extensions to be able to operate in the environment. So all of this is in place, meaning that our enterprise browser can now start to support extensions such as password managers is a very common request. If you've got your data in those password managers, you want to be able to log in seamlessly. Your organization may well make use of additional security plugins that can augment the already strong security standpoint of the enterprise browser, but overlay your additional policies from your organization. Very similarly, your organization may have a DLP vendor, and that extension needs to be running in the browser, again, augmenting the screen sharing, clipboard protection that the enterprise browser already offers. So keep your eyes peeled for announcements from us over the coming months as we start to announce more of these extensions being supported in the product. Now, with that said, let me start my screen share and I will show everyone some of the concepts that both Mazzy and John have touched upon. So here's the enterprise browser running. I'm going to show you a couple of super tabs, a couple of scenarios where that concept of AI helping people, helping humans do their job is what we are most interested in. So first up, we're going to take an example of a contact center. So this is aimed at an agent in a contact center, human agent, I should say, who has to sit in front of several applications. They are looking at lots of live data sources. They are responding to customers in real time as tickets are updated or phone calls come in. This is already a really strong use case for the enterprise browser in general, because I can have a super tab like we have on screen here that pulls together Salesforce alongside my other proprietary applications. There's like 9 applications on screen here that an agent has to use when they are triaging calls and tickets coming in from customers. We've got the good old, you can say good old, it's been there a while, the FTC3 capabilities where I select a contact in Salesforce. All of my other applications are updating to show information about that contact. That's a core part of our technology and our products for a very long time. Let's take the example though of I'm going to trigger a notification to simulate an update on a particular message. I can quickly press one button and I get straight into a ticket where in this example, Lauren has come through and has asked a question. Now, what I would do as an agent next is I would go and start looking through the knowledge base, looking through the other tickets Lauren has opened, what have we been saying with Lauren, all that good stuff. Or I can reach for the integrated AI center. So I'm going to pull this guy up and I'm going to ask it to help me respond here and to save me typing out and making lots of typos live on the call. I'm going to ask the AI, what is my customer's issue and what's the potential solution? Now, remember what John said, and some of you may have seen this before. This is we're bringing all of the contextual information that's present in the browser and supplying it to your AI, your institution's AI. It's not us providing the AI. It's not some public model. It's your institution's AI. Our AI center supports all the major models. And we're going to direct this prompt at your AI here, give it the context. You can see straight away it understands that we're looking at Lauren Boyle, it understands that Lauren's asking a question, it's providing some solutions. It's also highlighting that, hey, there's also meetings set up with Lauren as well. So it's a great little summary for me to get started on this support query. Let's take another example of where I'm live on a call. So let's simulate a call coming in here. I've got Jane Gray on the call. I start the call straight away. We see that contextual behavior in place. Salesforce is updated to Jane. I can see Jane's tickets. I've got all the context of what Jane might be calling about. Turns out what Jane is actually calling about is she has a new issue and she wants to raise a new case. So I can head over to the case form. Now, the case form is just a regular old web app. It's a web app with a form that I would have to go fill in. As John mentioned, we've brought SuperComplete to the product. So instead of me typing into each of these fields or copying and pasting, I'm going to ask the enterprise browser to SuperComplete this form. Now, when I click that, what's happening is it's taking the full description of this form, sending it to your AI. It's taking the full contextual information from all of the applications that we have running in the browser, and it's sending that to your AI and asking your AI, hey, generate me the autocomplete suggestions for this form. And you can see here, it's come back with a few suggestions from the data that's available to the AI. Jane is the top suggestion. I select Jane. It has filled in that entire form, saving me the copy and paste, or even worse, in some cases, you have to rekey data and you get it wrong with all the operational risk and reputational risk that comes with that. one-click form filled. It's a genuine time saver using your data and your AI to achieve it, helping people do their jobs more effectively. So let's take a look at another example. Let's switch over to an example of a markets terminal. So this will be familiar to a lot of people, right? These are all example applications making up a terminal. I've got a watch list, a portfolio, some pricing and a chart. Again, FTC3 in action. I click around, stuff's updating. You can see over here, everything's getting selected. If you're paying super close attention, you'll notice this chart is not updating. Because the reality is the developers of this chart, they haven't reached out for the FTC3 API, right? They haven't built that into their chart so that it can listen for context and update. So when I select Apple over there, I have to come over to the chart and I select Apple. So that's frustrating. If you look really closely, you'll also notice this is a nice chart. I can zoom in, zoom out. It's great, right? But it's not responsive. I make this bigger, or even worse, I make this smaller. It's not resizing. Sadly, this is quite common for web applications that haven't been built to be responsive. They don't play nice when you put them into that little space. Similarly, if I change my appearance, because I prefer a dark mode for the browser, oh, okay, the developers of this charting application haven't built it with light and dark mode. Right, so there's a number of things that are making it like a non-integrated experience inside a super tab, inside a context-rich environment. Let's look at how Studio can help us with that. So as John mentioned, one of the key ideas with Studio is it is your AI that is creating applications from your data. Within Studio itself, you can go and add all of the connectors to the various systems that you use. In this example environment, we're using MarketStack for live pricing information. We have a news feed. We are also connected to a live Salesforce organization. We are connected to ServiceNow. We have Slack. This means that the applications in here Studio can create applications that can pull data from all of these sources. So if I go back to my chart example, here is a single prompt, a prompt of an FTC3 enabled end of day charting widget with time range selector. It's literally all that has been put in here. And because of the contracts and the governance and the understanding around what FTC3 is, what are the APIs that you would want to use in FTC3 to make a widget compatible, all of that knowledge is baked in to the governance around your Studio as it interacts with your AI to create the code that creates an application like this. So from one single prompt, you can see it's given us this explanation of what it's done. It's built a widget with the time range, with FTC3 interrupt, and I have an app. Amazing. The next thing is, if I want to give that app to folks, through one click I can hit manage access, but let me go one step deeper with you. I'm going to go into the full configuration of this application. I can say that this application is available on any of the channels that we support. I can say what users to make this application available to. Is it just for me? Is it for my team? Is it for an entire organization? So using the Here admin console, I can say who gets instant access to this application when I'm ready to make it available. Now, these applications are created with constraints in place. As John mentions, there are contracts that govern the behavior, govern the data sources they can use. But then you have the additional layer of protection from the enterprise browser as well. There are existing controls around copy-paste protection. Does it use the secure clipboard? Has it got print protection? Has it got screen sharing protection? All of these additional overlays on top of the application that's already been generated under those guardrails. So anyway, I've got this app. It's created. So I want to use it. So I can come into my markets terminal here, and I'm going to go select that chart that's been published to me. Here's that chart running in context now within this dashboard. It is nice and responsive, taking out the space. I can make it smaller. It doesn't get cut off. More importantly, as I click around to my different instruments, the chart is also now staying in sync with everything else, which is really nice. And of course, I can switch my appearance from light mode to dark mode, and the chart is theme aware, and I've got myself a dark chart, responsive, responding to interrupt. Really impressive. And I think it's crucially impressive that came from a single prompt. Let me show you something else. So John created another chart using Studio. And John spent less than 30 minutes in Studio. John's a very talented guy. He's not a developer. And he's created this charting widget. And this is so much more than a charting widget. Okay, it's charting, it's pricing, it's volume, it is related news articles, it's instrument search, it is overlay of analytics, all without writing a single line of code, all created by your AI with our contracts and governance in place to create. I think calling this a widget is a bit of a disservice to it. This is a fully fledged application. And of course, I can take that application. And if I want to see that in my super tab here, I'm going to go and grab that app. And because it does all the things we've talked about, it is FTC3 aware, it is updating in time, it's responsive. Pretty incredible being able to create something like that. Now, let me go back to Studio and just touch on one more piece here. And I'm going to flip back to light mode. So we mentioned those connectors, and I do think it's really powerful to look at the concept of your SaaS platforms, and Salesforce is a great example. Let's look at this example here again of the contact center. I've got Salesforce over here. What I showed you earlier was me selecting contacts. That's great. If I actually go to the all contact view in Salesforce, it's not the best. Salesforce, super powerful application, but responsiveness is not its strongest point. And when I'm trying just to get a list of my Salesforce contacts in this super tab so I can drive my other windows, I don't need all of Salesforce. I just need my contacts. So guess what? In the Studio, I can go in and issue one prompt, complete with embarrassing typo from myself, where I ask for a widget that lists all of my contacts and lets me click on them and drill into them. Right, a much simpler view. And I can go back to my super tab over here, and instead of having Salesforce there, I'm going to go grab my Salesforce contact apps that, again, I've published and made available, add it to the super tab, and now I have a much more streamlined way of looking at my contacts, selecting Edna in that example, and having Edna update throughout the system. Really powerful illustration there of using your SaaS data to create a customized, specialized UI that fits in with your workflow. So let's think about what we've just seen there. We launched the enterprise browser, a year and a half ago. I worked in previous institutions building desktop platforms where it was an 18-month plus effort for a fairly significant sized team. We can now offer a turnkey platform. Within a couple of days of someone reaching out to us, we can have a platform ready for them. And that gives you your turnkey environment, add your applications, things work together. If things don't work together, we can now offer you here Studio, where you can create the applications that you need with interoperability, with responsive design, within minutes to add to that environment. The combination of a turnkey platform, the ability to generate the content you need, is super powerful. And the last thing I'll show you as well, I did mention it briefly if you're really paying attention. Got my phone, I'm going to fire up the here browser on my phone. There's that fancy chart, right, that John showed earlier, because I've deployed that to the here iOS application. So you have a multi-channel platform with AI at its core and the ability to generate applications. We are really excited to see the kinds of content that people are going to make and build and distribute to their users with these capabilities. And with that, I'm going to stop and we can move to Q&A.
Thanks, Gavin. I can maybe put some of these questions to you guys that have come through. One question is the workspace context exposed through an API that can be consumed outside of AI Center? Gavin, do you want to take that one?
I the short answer was yes. So when we started on the journey with AI, we created AI Center, which is our custom UI that's really dedicated around those chat workflows. You get that out of the box. It's part of the browser, connect it up to your models. What we also support is the concept of embedding your own AI platform. What do I mean by AI platform? I mean your Copilot environment, or maybe you have a custom platform you built in-house with your own UI. That's what you can embed into that side panel of the enterprise browser in lieu of using our UI. And then we can make context available to those platforms. There's various mechanisms for doing that. There's client-side APIs if that's appropriate, but there are also MCP tools available that can get context to your AI platform.
Nice. Okay. Another one about the workspace context. So, question is, can workspace context be augmented with additional user-provided information like files or attachments?
So this is where we would typically see people starting to reach for their AI platforms that can start to manage those kind of resources and support attachments and where are they being stored and where are they going. You probably don't want us storing your documents. So that's where if you want to move beyond the chat interface we have and the context that we can provide within the browser, using your own platform can start to introduce those kind of capabilities.
Nice. Okay. Another one, same topic. How is context derived from the workspace? For example, is it based on active windows, intents, app metadata, user activity, selected content, or another mechanism?
Yeah, we have a number of mechanisms we use to extract that context from the content and make it available to AI. So from understanding the textual content, stripping things back to this is the meaningful text within a given piece of content. Some content is very visual. It might be an HTML canvas and isn't even text in the first place. So we also can take screenshots. We are adding the FTC3 context as well. So things like what is the selected instrument that is being shared or the selected client that is being shared with this tab. All of this information is captured and is made available to the LLM for it to decide if it wants to use a screenshot versus a text versus is the context enough. Bear in mind that when we pass that context to your system, your AI can also then, armed with that information, look up additional information itself as part of its response, which is super powerful. We're giving it the steer and it can augment that data itself.
Nice. We have a few more questions rolling in, Gavin, but I wanted there are a couple more on this topic, so I just want to stick with this before
Sure.
we pivot to the other one. So, next question is, are there any platform permissions or configuration requirements that need to be enabled for AI Center to access workspace context? How's it get set up?
So I think there's two critical points on this one. So the first point is, in order for your application to take part in AI context and having its information made available to the AI center, you don't need to do anything. There's no APIs for you to code against. You don't have to change your apps. Apps just work because we are the browser. We can get that context out of the app. Crucially, though, we give you the controls. Do you want that to happen? Do you want the application to be allowed to participate in AI? So that's what you have control over. You can decide if it's going to take part, but in order for it to work, you don't need to do anything. It just works out of the box.
But Gavin, just how does somebody configure their AI to be connected to here?
So to configure, so what you saw in our AI center there, I briefly showed the concept of it as multiple model support. So your administrators can supply the configuration data for AIs. That is part of your configuration of your instance of the Here browser that makes those AIs available to the end user. The user can select what AI they want to interact with. And then our AI center is automatically able to gather context from the apps that are running inside the browser.
Okay, great. And maybe one word response on this one. Are we able to plug in our own connectors, such as APIs that expose internal data?
I assume that's being asked about Here Studio, and the answer is absolutely yes.
Perfect. Okay, one more question. Tend to be on the technical side, which is good. Is Studio packaged and depends on the turnkey platform, so like here browser, or can it operate independently as a standalone app? And yeah, I can maybe touch on this one. We have, just as we've been speaking with existing customers recently and previewing Studio, the question is, largely about folks that are already using Here Core and saying, well, can Studio work with Here Core? The so part of the answer is yes, it can. So like the same capability that lets you build an app that knows FTC3, like that app, if the platform you built with Here Core supports FTC3, it's going to be able to run nicely within Here Core. The slightly longer answer, though, is that a lot of the rest of what we're doing, right, requires orchestration with backend services, right, with a notification service that you get with the turnkey platform, with connectors that are plugged into Here Studio. So there's a lot of these other aspects to what come with the turnkey Here browser platform that wouldn't be part of what you've already got with Here Core. And that also extends to things like being able to publish the app. Like what store does it go to? How do you provide the entitlements? Everything to do with data loss prevention controls, the copy paste controls, printing controls, all of that Gavin showed you wouldn't be there by default in your Here Core platform. And so those are considerations. If this is your use case, if you want to use Studio in conjunction with an existing Here Core platform that you've built, please let us know. There is some detail behind it. We'd love to dive into it with you and see how we can help. Great. Now, another question. It's one question for better understanding. How are events exchanged between existing applications exchanged between existing applications integrated into an enterprise browser? Specifically, do the applications need to be changed or adapted, or can the enterprise browser or the Studio product, capture and deliver events between applications automatically?
So fundamentally, these applications are working together using FTC3, right? So they are publishing and subscribing to FTC3 context. And in order to use FTC3 context, yes, your application does need coding changes so that it can understand these contexts and update itself and emit them when users make selections inside your app. Unfortunately, it is common that some applications just haven't been updated to use FDC3 yet. So you end up with a mixture of apps. Some are updating, some are not. Studio doesn't change existing applications, right? It's not going to go in and modify the Salesforce application itself to make it FDC3 aware. But what it can do is it can create you an application that is FDC3 compatible using your Salesforce data. That was what I showed at the end of my demo, but I recreated the contacts list that was now FDC3 aware, showing the Salesforce data. So yeah, you can update your apps so they participate in interop, or you can create them with your Studio using your data.
Nice. Okay. And John, one for you. Somebody's asking for if they have, you know, Salesforce and Slack and a number of other SaaS platforms as well as internal data sources, and they haven't used here at all in the past. How quickly would they be able to get up and running here internally, and having apps built on top of those existing platforms and data sets, like from zero to getting in front of users?
Absolutely. So if we want to integrate with something like an Entra, or if you want to be able to manage users yourself, or if you need to connect to a source that defines your applications, or if you want to add them manually, this is typically a very quick task. We will spin up a POC and have things up and running in the space of a few hours. And if you want it in front of users, it's less than a week, assuming a massive number of apps and a huge number of users. As Studio goes, that setup is trivial. You're connecting to APIs using fairly standard methods and MCP as well. And following on from that, any user that you set up with Access will immediately start being able to generate applications and test them. And any of your admins will then be able to take those applications and publish them to make them useful to others within seconds, as Gavin pointed out. So now it's everything is very, very quick, very straightforward, and designed for our mindset is very much a business user, not a developer.
Nice. Okay. And one more for Gavin. You showed the Here iOS app. Is that something that's available today? And do you also support tablet and Android?
Yes, the Here iPhone application is available. So if you have an enterprise browser for your organization, we can supply the iOS application that allows your users to log into that app and access content. We are hard at work on the iPad version of that. So that's in test at the moment. Obviously, phones are very small screens, so you can see one app at a time on the phone. We're bringing the full layout support for iPads right now. And hot on the heels of that, we are targeting Android phones and tablets as well.
Fantastic. And we'll close out with maybe the most important question today for John. Is it going to be England or Argentina?
England, obviously.
The accent gave it away. Okay, Jacqueline, I think you're probably still there. We'll turn it back to you.
I am still here. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Mazi. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, John. As I mentioned, you will receive the on-demand recording, but if you have any questions, reach out to us. I dropped a link in the chat. If you want to experience Here Studio, feel free to fill out that form and we will be in touch. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Let's go, England. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.